The story of Ibn Arabi is unlike anything you've ever heard. He was not only a saint and scholar but a traveler between worlds. A man whose signature, they say, can even be found on Mars. A mystic who predicted the rise of the Ottoman Empire centuries before it happened. And one who described technologies of the future long before their time. But here's the mystery. Why were his books banned? Why did a few scholars refer to him as un-Islamic? And what daunting revelation was unearthed at his tomb? This is the remarkable life of the Sheikh Akbar Ibn Arabi, the greatest master of Sufism. Ibn Arabi was born on the 28th of July, 1165, in the Andalusian city of Murcia. His father was a pious man, incessantly reciting Quran and learning Hadith, while his mother, Nur, was from the aristocratic line of the Ansar. Already as a teenager, Ibn Arabi had the sense of being called beyond the world. He withdrew for months, and sometimes for more than a year, in search of the riches buried in his own heart. It was during these withdrawal periods that doors of divine wisdom started to open to him. One day, in a vision, the Prophet Muhammad came to visit him, saying, "Take hold of me, and you will be saved." After this, Ibn Arabi dedicated himself to the study of Hadith, both externally and internally. During his visits to the Prophet's tomb in Medina, and subsequently in Makkah, Ibn Arabi started writing what would be his most magnificent work, Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, the Meccan Revelations, a book that took him 23 years to finish, filled with wisdom that, he claimed, was made known to him directly by divine inspiration. But Ibn Arabi was not only a scholar of the pen, his life was filled with miracles. A philosopher once denied that Prophet Ibrahim would not die in fire. In order to establish his point, he derided religion by saying, "Fire burns by its very nature. It cannot do otherwise." Ibn Arabi replied peacefully by reciting the verse, "O fire, be cool and safe for Ibrahim." Quran 21-69, and in front of all their eyes, he took up a burning brazier, emptied its fire onto his own clothing, and fanned the flames with his hand. The fire did not harm him. The philosopher was paralyzed, tongue-tied. This was Ibn Arabi, a man living in two worlds at the same time. A saint, a mystic, and a visionary whose tale is only just starting. The philosopher, who had ridiculed Ibn Arabi, was left stunned. When he extended his hand towards the flames, he could feel their burning heat and withdraw it immediately. But Ibn Arabi had willingly reached out and touched the fire. Untouched, with serene authority, he clarified, "Fire burns only if Allah wills it." Struck by what he had seen, the atheist philosopher recited the Shahada right there on the spot, converts to Islam. But Ibn Arabi's life never was controversy. Free one day, he ascended a mountain and shouted loudly, "What you worship is beneath my feet." The scholars of that age misinterpreted him. They accused him of blasphemy, saying he had said that Allah was under his feet. A charge so serious, they sentenced him to death. When he died, his corpse was buried in an unmarked grave on a mountain. But Ibn Arabi had left a mysterious prophecy behind. "When this meets this, my grave will be revealed." Centuries afterward, with the Ottoman conquest of Damascus, Sultan Selim I started hunting for his grave. Locals confessed they didn't know where it was until a shepherd came forward. He said, "I do not know where his grave lies, but there is a spot where no sheep graze, no animal treads, and the grass grows and withers on its own." When the site was dug, the body of Ibn Arabi was found perfectly intact. A tomb was built in his honor. But the mystery didn't end there. Selim asked why Ibn Arabi had been executed. The locals informed him it was because of his saying, "What you worship is beneath my feet." Intrigued, the Sultan examined the very spot Ibn Arabi had uttered these words. When excavated, a vessel of gold was discovered hidden under the ground. Selim realized at once Ibn Arabi had been referring to riches, admonishing that humans worship gold, material goods, and earthly desires. but his words had been fatally misinterpreted. Thus, two of his miracles were revealed at once: his hidden indication of the gold's location and the true meaning of his prophecy. And remember the strange line? When the meets these, my grave will be revealed. The first was Salim. The second was Sham, Damascus. Only when Salim arrived in Sham was Ibn Arabi's grave uncovered. In his magnum opus Futuhat al-Makkiyah, Ibn Arabi wrote of travels throughout the universe through a psychic talent called Tay al-Makan, the folding of space. He said he visited other worlds, leaving traces even on Mars as a sign for posterity. He wrote about devices never known in his day, even outlining the principles of the telegraph centuries before its invention. Thomas Edison himself was said to call Ibn Arabi my master. And maybe his most astounding prediction was of an empire yet to be born. 70 years before Osman Ghazi was even conceived, Ibn Arabi described a dynasty destined to rule the world one day, the Ottoman Empire. In his treatise, Shajarat al-Numaniyah, the Tree of Numan, he mentioned rulers who would arrive, their reigns, their armies, and their victories. A prophecy that, to this day, is still full of symbols and secrets that scholars have yet to completely understand. Ibn Arabi's visions didn't end with his own lifetime. His prophecies reached across centuries into the rise and fall of empires. In his writings, Ibn Arabi referred to Sultan Selim, known as Yavuz Selim, the Stern, as the holder of the talisman. He foretold that the caliphate would pass into Ottoman hands through him. Ibn Arabi even described Selim's battles, his long and difficult campaigns, his triumph at Calderon, and even his distinctive black arched eyebrows, signs that matched the Sultan's very appearance. And when Selim finally reached Damascus, he discovered Ibn Arabi's neglected grave. Just as the mystic had foretold centuries earlier, the prophecy was fulfilled. But Ibn Arabi's writings also spoke of future Ottoman rulers. He foretold the downfall of Sultan Abdulaziz by a military coup in 1876. The language he employed was eerie. The fate ordained will materialize, and the troops of the divided moon will be his followers. Abdulaziz was actually overthrown by his own troops, betrayed, and subsequently discovered dead with his wrists slit. The prophecy materialized. He also wrote of Abdul Hamid II, telling of how he would come to power after turmoil, and how his rule would conflict with the Zionist movement's goals. And just as Ibn Arabi had envisioned, Abdul Hamid defied heavy pressure to grant concessions to Jewish settlements in Palestine. He held out, declining every proposition, and Ibn Arabi foresaw the downfall as well. In his esoteric vocabulary, he indicated that the last Ottoman ruler would be the last Mim. That man was Sultan Mehmed II, under whom the empire fell. Ibn Arabi cautioned that following the decline of the Ottomans, humanity would see an era of tests and tribulations, an era of corruption, chaos, and leaders not worthy of authority, a dark foreshadowing of the end of times. But Ibn Arabi's prophecies did not end in despair. He foretold that from Makkah, between the Kaaba and the well of Zamzam, a mysterious figure would emerge, the subtle one, the last Mim, the promised Mahdi. This awaited leader, he wrote, would rise after an age of oppression. He would reinstate justice, reunite the faithful, and scatter the light of Islam once more. Just like the first Mim, Prophet Muhammad once scattered it across the globe. The tale of Ibn Arabi isn't only about the past. It is an enigma still unraveling, an unbroken string of prophecies that leads into our time, and maybe into our own immediate future. Ibn Arabi's writings carried a mystery so deep that even centuries later, scholars still debate his words. Some praised him as the greatest master, a miracle of Islamic knowledge. Others accused him of crossing boundaries, warning that his works could confuse those without deep understanding. His teachings of Wadat al-Wujud, the unity of existence, claimed that nothing truly exists except Allah. To Ibn Arabi, a table was not even a table. It was merely the essence of God manifesting through form. These were revolutionary words to many. To others, they were threatening. Ibn Arabi himself cautioned, "Let no one who is not of us read my writings. Whoever does not know our position will be harmed." And so some of his writings were prohibited. Fusus al-Hikam was even forbidden in regions of the Ottoman world because it was claimed that subsequent interpolations had corrupted its authentic meaning. But through all the prohibitions, the controversies, and the misgivings, the light of Ibn Arabi has never dwindled. To those who tread the path of spirituality, he is still a giant figure, a man who savored realities beyond imagination. He died in Damascus in 1240 CE, but his words ring still. There is nothing but Allah. Ibn Arabi left all seekers with a warning. Drowning is Satan's province. Whatever you are in, take refuge in Allah. Feelings, thoughts, imaginations, and voices cannot hurt you. Deliver yourself from fixations. Return to Allah. This was the teaching of his lifetime, that above all deceptions, above the vicissitudes of this life, there is only the one.